take a spoil, take a prey, and all of that. Then here we pick up the names, Sheba and Dedan. You see, it talks about spoil, talks about people getting cattle and goods. These are trading, influential trading peoples. Sheba, as we saw, Dedan, that would have been Seba also. And the emergence of Tarshish, with all the young lions thereof, shall say unto thee, art thou come to take a spoil? Hast thou gathered thy company to take a prey, to carry away silver and gold, to take away cattle and goods, to take a great spoil? What do you, what kind of a gut reaction do you get to that question, or series of questions? A mammoth global sort of alliance, military alliance, is moved in and is executing this attack, and these trading partners, in effect, those who have control over the trading routes, trade routes, are asking these questions. What does it impress you in a certain way? I'm sort of provoking this.
Well, like an economic crisis?
Yeah. These guys are certainly interested in, they've got the trading route choke point, so they're making a lot of money here with shipping. It's just like all these ships that go through the Panama Canal, there's money to be made, right? But what I think it's crying out and saying is, it's a rhetorical question, or a question that the answer of which is very, 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 very obvious. Why ask, have you come to take prey and come to take spoil? It's obvious that that's exactly what they're trying to do. Then why ask the question? You ask the question when you are militarily incapable of what? Standing up to their attack. See? So they're in a weakened condition. They are no match. They are in absolutely no position to challenge this military alliance and stop them. All they can do is like the bankrupt UN. We are going to rebuke you for the nasty behavior that you've been guilty of in Syria or in parts of, what, Africa, right? The UN is, these are nations, and are they effective in stopping bloodshed? No. If you read the right stuff, you'll find out wherever they've been involved in trying to stop bloodshed, they have increased that bloodshed, and they have, at last count, they have, to their credit or discredit, the lives of over 714 million people that were to be under their direct protection. Okay? So I sense here that this military alliance goes basically unrivaled, especially in terms of these nations, Sheba, Dedan, or these trading partners, and Tarshish, you see. But that does, we don't want to forget the Western kingdom or confederate, which is the revived Roman Empire. We don't want to forget the Eastern kings, okay? They're going to come into play, and then there will be a sort of a civil war breaking out among the entire coalition that will also include the entire continent of Africa. The coalition will eventually begin to break down, and they'll fight among themselves. But 14, therefore, son of man, prophesy and say to God, thus saith the Lord God, in that day, when my people of Israel dwelleth safely, shalt thou not know it? They're dwelling safely. Did it say somewhere about unwalled villages, or are we going to come up to that in a minute? Israel is at a state of peace and rest. She has negotiated a treaty where her safety and security has been guaranteed. And that guarantee is coming from the king of the West, the Antichrist, the leader of the Holy Roman Empire, okay? So you'll see that in a moment. Going on with verse 15. And thou shalt come from thy place out of the north parts, thou and many people with thee, riding upon horses, a great company and mighty army. And thou shalt come up against my people of Israel as a cloud to cover the land. We've seen that expression before, right? It shall be in the latter days, which is what we're in now, and I will bring thee against my land, that the heathen may know me, when I shall be sanctified in thee, O Gog, before their eyes. Thus saith the Lord God. We have an arrow here and a number 1 that signifies the first stated purpose of the Magog prophecy. I mean, clearly, direct, stated purpose. That the heathen may know me when I will be sanctified in thee, O Gog. In other words, what God is going to do to this military alliance is such that it will cause God to stand dramatically separated from this in such a way that the world, the heathen, will have to say, this disaster that's going to befall this enormous global military alliance can only be accounted for supernaturally. And it's got to be who? The Lord God. All right, now, stated purpose number 1. Has that ever been fulfilled? No. So its first fulfillment is at this point in time in the prophecy, right? Thus saith the Lord God, art thou he of whom I have spoken in old times by my servants, the prophets of Israel, which prophesied in those days many years that I would bring thee against them? How long has this prophecy existed? 594, 580s. Pretty good long time, right? All right? Not to mention all the other minor and major prophets, Isaiah, Obadiah, and Zephaniah. Don't neglect the minor prophets. They all kaleidoscopically are looking at the same set of events, but just a little twist on the kaleidic perspective. But they're all talking about the same thing. Now that's a very important concept to understand, because when you have all these prophets and you understand they're all looking at the same time period, this overall Magog within what I'll show will be the very end of the 7-year tribulation, then you avoid a major pitfall that will drive you mad if you fall into the pit. And that is, you look at Zephaniah, you look at Joel, you look at this other prophet, you look at Isaiah and so on, and you look at what they're describing as an event. And this prophet is speaking of another event. And you got all these different events. And then prophecy students have to get it organized. They got to get all these events organized so that this event comes here, followed by that one. Oh, this one's got to come up over here. And what do you have? Well, wait a second. I think it's going to be the other way around. And what do you have? You have utter confusion and chaos trying to juggle all these pieces. If it were 2 pieces, it'd be easy. 3, it becomes quite more difficult. But when you have 4, 5, 6, how many more minor prophets and major prophets? And you have an absolute nightmare of how to juggle all these events. But when you understand they're all looking at the same event, but this one's looking at it this way, that way, you're getting a kaleidoscopic picture, overall picture. Put it all together. You see? And then as God has sovereignly embraced us with all of these inputs, we have a big picture of what's going on. And we're not going through a nightmarish, chaotic attempt, futile in the effort of trying to analyze them as separate events. Okay?